Hey now, Ross Warner, Justice is coming. Whoops, sorry about that. Coming at you again from the panic room here in beautiful Suffolk County, Long Island. Gonna keep up with the video installments as long as the Chargers keep winning. Sunday, um, you know, um, despite all of our ups and downs this season, the Chargers have a chance to go to the playoffs, albeit a slim one. Although I actually think a lot of things could break the Chargers' way. Obviously, the Jets, who have handed us so many heartbreaks, especially postseason time, are playing for their coach. At least they believe so. In Miami, a team that they don't like, that they've had a rivalry with. Obviously, they had that whole situation, with the wall a couple years ago when the Jets were doing well and the Dolphins were crappy. Now the Dolphins have done well, except for last weekend, and the Jets have done not as well. So I have no doubt the Jets would be motivated. Same thing with the Bengals. I mean, that's all you can ask for in this situation. And as I've said, whatever happens, I know it's easy to say now, and probably not so easy should it occur. But if the Chargers don't make the playoffs, I'm not going to allow myself to sit and dwell on the games that they lost, because obviously, again, you can't just pencil in two more wins and say, well, they should have beaten Houston, they should have beaten Tennessee, or they should have beaten Tennessee, and they should have beaten the Redskins, or all three of them. If those losses ended up, teaching the Chargers a lesson that they'll finally learn, or that they have learned, then I guess I can live with it. Again, how many of the games that they won, Philadelphia, Dallas, Indianapolis, were games that they won in response to losses, heartbreaking losses. So you don't know automatically they would have won the games that they have won if they had not lost the ones that they did. And again, going back to the Houston game, they weren't nearly the train wreck that they have become first week of the season. But again, I don't want to use a cliched term like taking care of business. The Chargers obviously have to play a game at 4 o'clock, and they'll know, or 4:25, they'll know when that game kicks off, if that game will give them a chance to go to the postseason. And the Chiefs will most likely, as they've said, mix and match their players. But I mean, regardless, the Chargers beat them once. It took obviously a last-second touchdown to do it, but they beat them once with their starters on their own field. So I would feel pretty good about the Chargers' chances if the Chiefs were playing at full strength. Kansas City, I guess Holly's not playing, Dwayne Bowe is not playing. So if they were starting all their guys, they still would be shorthanded. And again, that Kansas City game was a game that if Philip Rivers doesn't find 2-2 there at the end, maybe Mike McCoy, let me just fix this. Whoops, sorry. Maybe Mike McCoy is, getting blasted again for being conservative at the end of that game, because, if you remember, in that game, the Chargers had a lead. Then McCoy kind of, once again, I don't want to use the term turtled, but got conservative, and then the Chiefs went ahead, and then Rivers, of course, found 2-2 on the long pass, and if he doesn't hit that pass, not only are we all, pointing at an extended losing streak, even more extended, I'm also probably still thinking, how could Philip Rivers take a sack in that situation? But again, last week against the Raiders, it wasn't pretty. It was a game that the Chargers themselves have said they would have lost earlier in the year. They didn't panic with the turnovers. Obviously, the first half couldn't have gone worse for the Chargers. They've lost on their own field to the Raiders in crucial spots. It happened in 2010 after they beat the Colts. It happened a year later on a Thursday night, a game they needed. Carson Palmer had been, in retirement, and essentially barely had come back to the league when the Chargers played them, and still we allowed ourselves to get lit up. So there was a lot of doubt, I think, in the fans' mind that the Chargers would let this one get away. Keenan Allen, with all the hype surrounding him, had a horrible first half. That fumble, of course, was just egregious. Some drops that he hasn't had, especially in crossing routes where he's been so clutch all year. Nick Hardwick, we assume, making a pretty big mistake and snapping the ball before Rivers was ready. Rivers is in the red zone, which again, the same thing with, and if you look at the turnovers they had, my God, Keenan Allen's fumble, was in our red zone. We were right on the edge of a scoring opportunity when Hardwick snapped that ball, and then Rivers' pass. I mean, that was at least 3 points right there. So there was a lot of reasons to be kicking yourself in the first half, and then they pulled together, and Allen himself got a touchdown. And really, I mean, at the time, I have to admit, I was so frustrated after that Allen fumble that I went to empty the dishwasher and refused to, although I was listening, to look at the screen. That end of the half goal line stand, I mean, I guess we can call it that, that was huge because obviously the momentum would have been even more in the Raiders' favor. And, on the scoreboard, there's 4 points right there. So that was a huge play. And a huge series of plays, and the Chargers deserve credit for that. The defense, the secondary has been extremely shaky, and they looked extremely shaky at the end of the game. But the defense, got some pressure, on the Raiders again. Obviously, mobile quarterbacks, be it Jake Locker, be it Terrell Pryor, have given the Chargers fits this year. Certainly, Michael Vick falls into that category. So, that turned the game around. Ryan Matthews, obviously, a lot of attention this week, with his ankle injury. As I said after the game on Sunday, if he didn't play another down, although I'm sure he wishes he hadn't boasted about his durability the previous week, if he didn't play another down, I would be fine, with him, not playing. I mean, by fine, I mean, I wouldn't sit and hang my head and say, oh my God, we finally have a guy who, looks to be that bell cow, and now he's getting hurt. I mean, he's given everything that he could. I'm sure there will be an off-season article at some point where Mike McCoy will admit that he should have trusted Matthews in that Washington game. I hope that it's not because the Washington game continues to be the thing that we point out that kept us out of the playoffs. But, he's paced Matthews, McCoy, and, again, we don't know what goes on in the practice field. Maybe they are more concerned about his durability than they've let on. But they've paced him in his usage, and they've gotten this much out of him, more than any other coach has, although there's only been one before McCoy. So hopefully Matthews will be out there on Sunday. No other major injuries to speak of. Like I said, the Raider game was a game that often they would let get away. Nick Novak, who I believe won Special Teams Player of the Week this week. Another play that I have to admit I just took my eyes off the screen was that 49-yard field goal. This is the second time now that McCoy has trusted Novak in those spots. I believe that kick made the lead 10, and the same kind of thing happened in the Indianapolis game, a long field goal that essentially after a 3rd and 1 failed, I believe, allowed the Chargers to turn it into a 2-score game. So, kudos to Novak. He had, 2 field goals blocked, I think. But for the most part, I mean, he's been beyond clutch. I'm not going to jinx him any more than Kevin Acee already has by saying it's his best regular season as a Charger kicker since 2009. Nate Keating, because we all know, where that led, which was basically nothing. That whole season was clearly fool's gold, to say the least. So, a lot to be happy with the Chargers. I guess, I'm grateful for the week of hoping, of speculating. Like I said, I probably will not allow myself to watch the games that come before the Charger game, only because I'm sure a lot of people have had this situation. It's even more stressful than when you're rooting for your own team. But certainly, Cincinnati could very well knock off Baltimore. Flacco has obviously not been the same since that Detroit game. Cincinnati still has a lot to play for. The Jets would love to go into Miami and spoil the Dolphins' season. They've said as much, and hopefully they'll play with that same mindset. So I feel pretty confident, I guess as much as you can, that the Chargers will have something to play for on Sunday. And if they don't, I still think they'll go out and try to, go out for a 9-7 season. This would be a much different 9-7 than, let's say, the 2005 Chargers. It would be a much different 9-7 even than the 2010 Chargers. Those are the two 9-7s that come to mind. So even if it doesn't end up in a playoff season, like the 95 9-7 2000 Chargers, I feel like I don't want to say that we'd be pointing the right direction or trending upward, because that gets overused. But I think that, even if they don't ultimately make the playoffs, a win on Sunday is extremely important. So far, even though there's been a lot of disappointment, we can certainly say that the Chargers, have finished strong after that Cincinnati game. If you told me you know, that they were going to win all these games, I guess I would have said really doesn't matter. It's too late. But the way I'm feeling right now, I feel like it does matter, and not just because of the possibility of playing one more week or of getting a bonus game, as Philip Rivers said. So I'll continue to make videos as long as they continue to keep playing, and then eventually I'll return to some kind of, writing at Justice is Coming. But enjoy your Sunday. Merry Christmas, belated, and I will talk to you next week, hopefully on a positive note. So until then, Ross Warner, Justice is Coming.